episode of KCBC Season 2. Today, I have an awesome guest, my friend Cassidy Wheeler. I actually met Cassidy in our Referral Madness networking group, which has come up numerous times on this show. We've had numerous people either from that group or that we've met through that group. I've known Cassidy for just over a year now, and one of the main reasons why she is on this show is because she truly is a disruptor in the real estate market. I have been watching her, how she manages her social media. She runs her company, Scout Homes LLC, along with her husband. And the way they're doing things is just so different. And I think that everybody in Kansas City and all of our listeners across the United States really need to know her and know her brand. So Cassidy, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you. I've been watching you just be a resource for everyone in our network. Even when you are not the best person to talk to about something, you know somebody that you can refer people to. And so you have just been a godsend to our family. I know to the Referral Madness group, and with all you're working on out in our community, really glad to have you here today.
Thank you, Michael. I really appreciate it. It's such an honor to be on your podcast. I've seen from afar what you have done as well, and it's truly an honor to be here.
Absolutely. So I think what it's really important to understand first off, because we're going to go ahead and go through, lots of education about real estate, the housing market. I know that you have learned so many different lessons. You've had a lot of experience to tweak your brand. You've also been through some of the most disruptive seasons in the real estate market, and you're still running strong. Like, you are thriving, right? So I know we'll get into all of that stuff, but maybe you could just kind of start with what Scout Homes is, and then we'll unpack that further. But your journey to getting to, running your own LLC, getting into real estate, because I know you had a corporate environment background as well. We'll talk a little bit more about your pivot points in your life that kind of led you to this. But if you could maybe just start by defining what Scout Homes is, and then we'll kind of work back from there.
Yeah, so Scout Homes has a lot of meaning to me. I come from a military family, grandparents, stepdad, uncle, aunt, military background to the core. So Scout Homes has a lot of meaning behind that to me, because I feel that as a real estate agent in today's environment, we are modern day scouts. So, we are hired, our client, and our client expects us to report back with information. So consider myself kind of a scout, if you would say.
I love that. Like, we had a meetup. I think it was at Cafe
Yeah.
Equinox. Props to Cafe Equinox. My kids were there with Stephanie literally last week and buying plants. And
Oh,
when
love
we were
that
talking
place.
about that, remember you were telling me about that, about how you came from a military background, and what a scout does, or cavalry scout does in the military, right? And there's that sort of scouting, the reconnaissance, the I've seen the level of detail that you can get into with your clients, and tagline is you offer a luxury experience at any price point. Is that correct, or did I butcher it?
That is correct. So
Okay.
100,000 or 2 million, you get the same experience.
Absolutely. So, talking about that, and getting to where you've got your own LLC, and I know that you're also involved in, demoing for your own properties, like you're
Mhm.
managing contractors, like you're kind of doing it all. So what led you to this point where you decided, first off, I'm going to get into real estate, and kind of go that route? I guess we'll start there. Yeah. Where did that whole point sort of happen? What made you
Yeah.
want to get into real estate?
Yeah. So parents really pushed college at a young age. Like, you have to go to college. Like, that is the end all be all. I came from two parents that did not go to college. My mom went to trade school, but no college degree. And they just really saw that in me. They were like, college is for you. So I was like, well, I mean, I guess so. So I started as a fashion major because I still have this creative backbone, which I'll get to later, but that is
Sure.
still like at my core. Having, they were like, okay, so I started as fashion major and hated it. I called my dad and he was like, what are you doing? I was like, I just don't like fashion classes. Like, this is just not for me. I followed one of my good friends, Katie, there because I mean, you're 18 years old. How are you supposed to know what you're supposed to do for the rest of your life? Like, how, I don't know. I still can't grasp it all.
Right.
I'm like an 18-year-old, like I was so young. So I went to college
Right.
and quickly after one semester realized that doing the fashion program at the University of Nebraska was not my forte. So I remember being in my dorm room and Googling what is the cheapest in-state school in Missouri so I could be like, look, Dad, I'm still going to go to college, but I'm going to pick the cheapest school so that way if it's a flop, it's not the end of the world. So ended up transferring there sophomore year. And at one point, I decided I was going to be a construction management major. I mean, which probably would have
Oh,
helped
that's
now.
great.
I don't know. But yeah, ended up graduating with a business degree and then got into corporate America. Like, I don't even think I graduated and I already had an offer letter for a job. So that was
Right.
pretty cool because at the time I graduated, it was really hard to get a job. So the job market wasn't great. So I was just kind of thrilled for any kind of offer. So I graduated with a business degree and a minor in marketing and sales. So took a offer at Cerner, which is now Oracle, I think.
That's right.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, was doing consulting there and really just took off full force, traveling for 9 months straight, and it was exhausting. I missed being at home. I felt like I missed things, and I was just like, I felt like somebody else like had control of my time, and I didn't like that. So,
Yeah.
and being in corporate America allowed me to buy my first home. So that was really exciting time. And I just really fell in love with the process. My husband, which was my boyfriend at the time, he was like, why are we moving? We have a brand new apartment and now we're going to move to this fixer upper. Like, I just remember him being like, what are you doing? But growing up, my grandma was a huge inspiration in my life and has pivotal moments where I feel like I'm living out her legacy now, just because of so many parts of her life of being like determined, being especially, buying a home. And prior to 1978, a woman couldn't even buy a home by themselves without their dad's signature,
Right.
living with kind of her legacy. And she actually drew out a home on a piece of paper and then took it to an architect, had plans drawn up, and built her own home by herself, which I'm sure her dad was like behind the scenes signing something. I don't really know all the logistics of that, but just the fact that she made that happen and, raised my dad and my aunt was just like huge inspiration to me. So was like, wow, we're buying this home and it is a fixer upper, honey, but it's going to be okay. So now it's like, I can't even get him to leave the house because he loves our house so much. So just really falling in love with that process
Right.
and being like, wow, this could, be a moment where I can help somebody get out of a situation or help their financial future be stronger and just really, you know, fastening on to that process and falling in love with that and wanting to make a career out of it. So,
Absolutely. When I heard you say this, and I heard you say it when we first met as well, for coffee, about how you fell in love with the process of buying a house. And I think about every house buying process my wife and I have ever had. And I don't know if I told you this, but we've moved at least 12 or 13 times. And we're high school sweethearts. So, we had
yeah.
the one bedroom apartment, then we graduated to a two-bedroom apartment, then we started renting a house, then we went back to an apartment, and then we went and bought our first house, and then like we rented a house. Like we've been through that, and falling in love with that process. I personally never do it, but the fact that you saw beauty in that process and an opportunity to help people just sounds so cool. And I love too how it started from, just that pure thought of like, I enjoyed this process. I would
Mhm.
love to help other people go through this. And so you mentioned that, forgive me, but the house that you bought, was that the house that your grandmother designed, or you were inspired to buy a house from that whole process?
Yeah, so her being just like a single woman in that time and being able to move forward and do things on her own was a huge
Right.
inspiration to me. So when I was like, honey, we're doing this, he was just like, what? I was like, yes, we can do it. Like, come along, like,
Right.
essentially. And he was like, not about it, but just knowing and growing up with that background of my grandmother being able to take that on herself. She also like designed everything on her own, which I'll get into, but we did an addition on our house. So, and that goes along with how I want when I have somebody buying a home, what's your 5-year plan? What's your 10-year plan? And if you don't know it to a T, at least give me some meat of the story so that I can help, guide you along this process and I take note of that. So, if you guys want to have kids in 5 years and that's the goal, like I know that through the process. Or maybe in 5 years you want to buy a rental property, or maybe in 5 years you want to move to Florida. Like just knowing those things up front to impact like return on investment and to help clients see that has been crucial. So this addition on our house on like a scratch piece of paper and took it to an architect, and yeah, the rest is history.
That is so cool. Love to how what you're talking about as well. When you're scouting, right? Anything, I mean, knowing what the purpose of the mission is and knowing what beginning with the end in mind, right? Like the end result, if the end result is to, or not the end, but in 5 years you want to have kids, maybe
Right.
don't buy a 1 or 2 bedroom house, or a house where all the bedrooms are in the same corner of the house, like my house is. Those types of things, like the fact that you are doing that future state sort of planning with your clients is just incredible. I can see too, that's why it's no surprise to me why you're doing so well as well. So with your husband, right? When he was like, "What are we doing?" Did he have a background in like construction or remodeling or even like working on houses? Like what was his background?
No, and it's so funny that you bring that up because he actually took electricity. I give him crap for this all the time because he like, I took electricity 1, 2, and 3 in high school and still remembers it. Who remembers a class they took in
Whoa,
high school?
that is so cool.
Yeah, and he just remembers growing up and just helping with things around the house. But if you ask him how many times we've changed your dining room light fixture, I'm like, see that electricity class is coming in handy.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah, and that's one of those things too. I think for guys at least, like a lot of the guys I know and myself included, I mean, I tell my wife, when something breaks in the house, I'm like, let me take a shot at it real quick, like let me see what I can do. Water heater. How far am I willing to go on fixing a busted water heater, or like
right.
getting in the attic? And every dude that wants to make a life for his family, at least, right, like wants to be able to do that kind of stuff. And I love too that you and him have partnered together in these endeavors. So you're big, and maybe we should set the stage too. When did you get your start in real estate? Which year exactly?
So purchased my house in 2019, but didn't officially get like was always poaching the idea probably for the rest of 2019. So bought it in July of 2019 to be exact, but didn't
Okay.
get licensed until 2020, right as the world shut down.
Yeah. Okay. So I knew that was a critical part of your story. So what has it been like in the housing market since 2020? And maybe
It has been a roller coaster. But if you ask any agent that's been in the business 20 plus years, they would say, that's just part of it. Like there's ups and downs. But I do think that being in this industry in the years that I have been in it, we've seen night and day change.
hmm,
So all the way from when I bought my house, sellers were paying closing costs to the next year where you were getting appraisal waiver gaps, post COVID because interest rates were 275 and people were willing to cut off their right arms for the house. So, and then now kind of getting back to somewhat of that 2019 market, but still having bits and pieces of when it was crazy because certain areas of the metro homes are still hot. And, if somebody's got to move, they've got to move. So it's really been a true roller coaster, but I am thankful to like experience it all the way around full circle. And coming from a background of where I had insurance experience for negotiating being able to negotiate, first of all, that wasn't a thing
Right.
in, 2021 when you're buying a home at a 2.75 interest rate. There wasn't a lot of negotiating, but I enjoy negotiating. I want what's best for my clients, and at the end of the day, we have a goal to get to the closing table. So if it can be a win from both parties, that's a huge success and a huge win for me.
Absolutely. You run how to buy a house classes, right?
Mhm.
We'll obviously tag all your socials. So if people are, wanting to connect with you after this episode, they can do that. But what are some education points and things that you want people to be aware of?
So I'm just going to start with, they don't teach you this in high school. Like,
Mm-mm.
my husband may have learned electricity in high school, and they may teach you how to write a check in high school, but truly how to buy a home is not taught in high school. So I think for anybody wanting to move forward in this process, you need to be educated. If you haven't bought a home, if your agent or the person you are relying on is not educating you throughout the process, then you're not you're not doing yourself justice. You need to be educated, you need to ask questions, and it's not a burden. That is that person's job. So if you don't feel educated, okay, they're just sliding you a piece of paper and you're signing it. Well, what are you signing? I take the education part really seriously because it's not things that we are taught. I wish that it was different. Anyone that works with me, not only are they getting a luxury experience at every price point, but part of that experience is the education piece, because I think that the general public may look to social media, or, somebody makes a reel that doesn't even, sell homes for a living. I think it's at being educated in the process, talking to somebody that's local in your market. What I'm dealing with here in Kansas City is completely different than what somebody's dealing with in California.
Right.
So
Right.
I think, and not just trusting like your parents' generation, or, I've had so many people, I thought it was 20%. I had up 20% down. That's why I've been saving. Or I was in the military and I didn't know that I could get into a home with 0% down. So I think it's being educated through the process, starting young and asking questions, and not feeling like that you are a burden for asking those questions. Like, you should never feel that way.
Absolutely. Something too, I think my wife and I, when we were going through the house buying process in California and then again out here in Kansas City is, in your gut only so far, right? Like, I mean, obviously there's points where like trusting your gut when you're talking about like generational knowledge or a dominant voice in the family that's like telling you how it is based on their experience of buying a home 20 or 30 years ago. You've talked about that as well. You've made some awesome reels that have to do with that as well. But if I'm a buyer right now and I know nothing about it, what do you think are the things like when you're going into that first time home buyers? What are some things that you have to address maybe right off the bat with folks? Like FAQs or common things that since you're saying like you said we're not taught about how to deal with this in our formative years or in high school, college. What are some things that you have to educate home buyers on?
Yeah, I like what you said too about trusting your gut. That is like my key phrase to everyone, no matter what.
Right.
But another part of that is focus on your controllables. What are your controllables?
Mm,
So, my controllables as a home buyer are how much money I can spend per month. So, I'm not focused on the fact that the home is 300,000. I'm focused on what I can spend per month and what my budget allows me to spend per month, and only you as a home buyer are going to know that. So, oh my gosh, my mother-in-law knows that I will talk about this till the end, but when we bought our home, she could not believe how much we were spending. She was like, that is just outrageous. Like, I cannot believe these young, people are spending X amount. And even, sorry, Jenny, if you're listening, but like, I think she about fell over hearing that. And I was just like,
Perfect.
but, we can afford the monthly payment. With what we're putting down, the monthly payment is in our controllable. So focus
Absolutely.
on that, and if a home has an older AC unit, well, let's focus on, okay, if we had to finance that out for the next 2 years, how much would that cost? And does that still make this payment affordable? So I really like to break it down and focus on what you can control, because we can't control that home prices are skyrocketing every day. But what we can control is what our budget is per month, moving forward.
Absolutely. Sellers in this market right now, and what you've learned over time of working with people that are selling their homes, like what are some things people should know about? Like one of the myths, maybe you can check me on this. I've been trying to not wade into territory that's not mine, that's actually on the other side of this camera. But I think a common myth is that like if you like put a pool in your backyard, like that increases the value. Um, and seller, what do I need to know, or what should I know when I'm looking to sell my house?
Well, first of all, you should talk to a local expert before you think of doing anything, but I will give you one secret, is
Like an
that one.
enhancement on the house,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
something you think is going to add value, like talk to an expert. Okay.
Yeah, so if, for
Okay.
example, you're gonna put a pool in your backyard, but you live off a main road, there's just so many factors that take into an account, and I think really talking to a local expert before you do these things is really key. But if somebody doesn't want to talk to a local expert, one secret I will share is that it takes 10 to 15 seconds to determine if you like that house or not. From the time I pull up and get out of my car, what do I see in the first 10 to 15 seconds? So one easy way, just for quick upgrading, is a front door. So what does your front door look like? Like, what does somebody see when they get out of your car and walk up to your house? And then beyond that, you buy a home by engaging your five senses. Sight, smell, like, what is there, a noisy playground next door? Is there railroad tracks? Like, what do I smell? Do I smell like a musty smell? Does it smell like sewer? You know, what what do I smell when I get out of the car? What do I hear? So you're engaging all your senses. So first 10 to 15 seconds, what do you see, and what does your senses do? And so if anybody, that is kind of the first impression, and from that, walking in, getting out of your car, if you're going to like the home or not. So I always tell sellers that, but it's important if somebody's ever considering, even if we're a year down the road, I still want to come check it out. I want to see what you've done. And then, if you're really serious and want to move forward, then I create an ABC punch list. And so I call that Cassidy's return on investment. So A would be like something that's crucial. Like, okay, you've got a giant hole in the wall because your son kicked a ball or whatever, whatever. That would be like an A. Like,
That
sorry,
sounds
you
like
gotta
it's
fix
rooted
that.
in reality and
Yeah.
personal experience. You've seen that
Yeah.
before. Yeah.
Can't
Go
say I
ahead. Yeah. So a hole in the
haven't.
wall.
Yeah, so that would be like an A thing. And then I break it down into three different categories. So if you want to maximize return on investment, you want to sell quick, you're invested to sell your home, you're going to do all those things. But if you only have a small amount of money and you need to sell, then maybe you just focus on the A list items. So what I like to do is really break it down and give my sellers the chance to make their own decision. Again, we are scouting out information and reporting back.
Gosh, it's just again too, like as I'm listening to you talk, we're almost, I mean, we're not even 20 minutes into this, but I'm just like I'm remembering like the moment that I decided I'm going to ask Cassidy to come on this show. It's just the way that you communicate this stuff, and you can break this down at every level. Let me ask you this, since we talked about sellers and buyers, who are you going to be the ideal consultant or scout to work with when buying and selling? And then maybe there's points where you've decided hey, we're not quite a fit, but maybe you should talk to these people or whatever. But can you talk about like what makes a good partnership with scout and sellers and scout and buyers? And we'll just kind of go there. I'd love to hear that from you.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you would have asked me this question 3 years ago, I would have been like, everybody's a good fit. What do you mean? So
Yeah.
I have learned no, but I will tell you it's not been easy, and I want to be a good fit for everyone, but I realize that I'm not always a good fit. And I will tell you about, in the last year, 35% of my business has been past client referral. So that's my biggest
Wow.
category. When I first got into real estate, it was my sphere of influence. It was my family, my friends. But now it's, I have somebody that I've done a transaction with, then they've referred me, then they've referred me, then they've referred me, so it's just like we're three deep in the line because
Right.
of that experience. It's like-minded individuals that want that similar experience, that I am really putting myself in their shoes. And if we don't have similar goals, if you know, don't want return on investment, or you don't want to maybe put forth the work to get, it's not that I won't help you. I'll always help anybody, and I'm always going to put my best foot forward, even if the client doesn't. But it's really those like-minded individuals. And I really pride myself in that, 35% category. And hopefully that number will continue to grow, because it's about that experience.
Absolutely. So yeah, like, and we've talked about that before in Referral Madness. We first connected, but like, core values, you are clear about those, and you should be able to attract the kind of people that sort of share your core values. And if we're thinking about just from the base level of like, it's not just buying or selling a home, it's scouting out the experience and the next few years and all of that. Your ideal clients are going to be like, Cassidy, where have you been my whole life? Like where have you
Right.
been throughout this whole process? Or gosh, I wish I would have bought my first house through you, or whatever it is. But so important. But what are your core values? Like, what is Scout Home's core values? Have you
Of course, I've scouted those out.
I was laughing at myself like, dude, what do you think? What do you think she's gonna say? So yeah. So go ahead.
So integrity is at the core. I mean, it's all the way down to the core. So, for example, if I have a client that comes to me as they're, filling out the seller's disclosure, and they're like, "Me, see, my basement leaked 5 years ago," and I'm like, "Okay, great. We live in the Midwest. Most everybody's basement leaks, but it's what have you done to be proactive and to maintain your home?" And that's what, that is what we're looking for here. It's not that if your basement flooded that nobody's going to buy your house. It's integrity as a core. So it's, okay, my basement flooded, and here's the steps I did to manage that and to mitigate it and to be a proactive homeowner. And if they haven't done that yet, then I'm, maybe helping them. But if a client wants to be truthful or not hold integrity at the core, then it's not somebody I'm interested in working with, just because of the legality
Absolutely.
that sets everybody up for. And luckily that hasn't happened yet. So been really blessed that it hasn't happened. And it kind of leads me into another question that you're probably going to ask me, but I have like a really good partnership of people that help get us to the closing table from a contractor standpoint. So, because for example, the painter that I would recommend, he's seen my work again and again and again. And he knows that I know what it's going to take to create that A-list crucial items to get it to the next phase, which is the closing table. So I have worked out a deal with certain contractors that they will take checks at closing. And it's not for, everyone, or doesn't work out for everyone. But if there was a situation where, divorce or death, or, maybe they had, I call it diapers, the 5Ds. So maybe they,
Mhm.
have something their life and it has a financial setback, we have a plan in place to get them to the next step. And that is because I have such a trusted circle of contractors that have seen my work, trust me, and some of them I'm seeing on a weekly basis.
Right. Right. Um, so you talked about integrity. What are your other core values, or what are other guiding principles for you?
Yeah. I would say integrity is definitely at the core, but I think communication too is something that I value moving forward because I'm going to communicate with you. And it's just like establishing that from the start of how we're going to communicate and how, we're going to move forward. So I would say, holding that with integrity, but also like defining like the communication side of things and how we're going to work to get to the closing table.
So, we've talked a little bit about how you got into it. We talked about the housing market. I would love hear maybe some lessons that you've learned even recently that you think are important for people to consider if they're trying to get into this line of work. Because so far, I think as people hear you communicate, you're like, having a trusted circle of people that you work with on a regular basis, having the same values, clients. What are some other lessons or things that you would pass on? Like,
It's so funny that you asked me this because I have this thing from social media. I'll have to find the video and send it to you, but it's like, are you sure about that? Are you sure about that? And it's like, because that's literally how I feel. I'm like, are you sure about that? This industry is hard work. It's not for the faint, it's not for the weak. And you have to have like what it takes. And if you like it's not something that I can like teach you, you just gotta have it. And imagine working all the way to maybe 24 hours before payday and then never getting paid. It's like, how do you pick up the pieces and move forward? It's constantly that. And you can't smell like commission. Like you can't breathe it on somebody, like nothing. It's coming off as, you know, I've had so many times clients come to me, they're like, oh my gosh, we're going to cancel. We're so sorry. Like, are you sure you're okay? And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? Like, are you okay? Like, it's like, because they're just like terrified to tell me they want to cancel. And it's like, no, this is how we roll. It's, throughout time, like you learn those things, but you could work all the way to the finish line in hours before it not go. When I first got into real estate, I was doing everything under the sun because I saw a future someday and I kept that value of like, I want to help you. So I was like, I'm going to do whatever it takes. I'll nanny on the weekends. I'll sell things on Facebook Marketplace. I mean, when I first got into real estate, my accountant like looked at me like, are you kidding me right now? Because he was like, how did you just sell $50,000 worth of stuff on Facebook Market? Who are you? And I was like, I gotta pay my bills. I mean, my mom's not gonna pay my bills. Like, so and so's not gonna, so it's like, I has to be the one to keep moving forward. So, whatever it's gonna take to get me there, and I can't let my clients know or like feel that sense of like they smell or feel commission. Commission breath is what they call it. You can't have that mentality. So it was like, okay, well, this is what I want to do, but I'm going to have all these things lined up on the side so that this is not what I'm relying on to pay my bills.
just again, like you going all in, literally selling
Yeah.
everything you owned. I remember you telling me about that. And yeah, $50,000 worth of, stuff and furniture and I mean, it's just incredible. And you're right. You can't like just instill that in somebody. They have to actually
Yeah.
want it. The fact too, so let's talk about this. Grace at which you operate and communicate. And I've seen you go through some stressful times that you never shared like to the group, right? But like if you had to step out of a meeting or you had to take a call or whatever you had to do, you have this sort of like calm demeanor about you. The fact that you said like people are scared to cancel on you, and you're like, what? What do you mean, am I okay? Are you okay? This is how we roll. Like,
Yeah.
that is something that you can't get unless you've been through it. And
Mhm.
as you're talking, I mean, I too like you could be really prone to burnout as well, right? Because you're still a human being. You still have, you have just as many hours in the day as everyone else does. And I know like you get the calls like late at night, like, okay, like this went through, this didn't go through. So like all that to say, like, how do you keep your chill? How do you deal with burnout? what do you do to manage what you can control and try to keep the chaos to a minimum, I guess?
Yeah. Well, my husband has really been essential through it all. Like I could literally fall up and cry, like thinking about how when I come home from like a stressful day, how he's just like so calm and is like feel like I'm literally crying thinking about it because
Yeah.
he is like the root of a lot of my success because he is the backbone behind it all. And the fact that like he's like, it's okay, like we're gonna be okay. Like, is how I come off to my clients, but it's like having him who also like there's no question about like what we're doing. It's so funny. Like I'll have a client be like, their husband will be like very involved in like a couch color or like a wall color or and like my husband is like he doesn't even think he's just like okay whatever she says because it's like he trusts that size that trust and that backbone behind it all has allowed me to keep moving forward too. Just like the team of people that I have been able to hire behind me, from my transaction coordinator to marketing help to showing assistance, any kind of help that I need behind the scenes, that has really helped, you know, guide me in moving forward. And then about 2 years ago, we dipped into the rental side of things and becoming investors on that end. So just like other
Okay.
sources of income that way as well. And so that has allowed us to just not rely on this. But, one thing I am learning this year, and that is the word balance. So at the beginning of the year, I wrote down on a piece of paper one thing that I'm going to focus on for 2024, and that was balance and how can I still provide this luxury experience but still give work-life balance? And it's okay, I'm going to hire out help, and that help is going to be an expert in that field. And I'm not going to try to be the one who can just do it all because that's
Mhm.
not humanly possible. But it is that
Absolutely.
people ask me, like, oh, are you going on vacation? Or like, are you doing these things? And it's hard for my husband and I to like want to go on vacation. First of all, we're not beach people, but we have made our home such a luxury suite, I'll say, just because it's like exactly how we want it, all the way from like our water pressure to our pillow to our bed to our laundry, like to have like we're dog people, so like we don't ever want to leave our dogs. So it's just, coming home to him and, a home that I love, that I enjoy being in and is exactly how I want it. That has been the root and the backbone as well. And so that and I could go on for days about this. That, leads on to why I am passionate about what I do because I want somebody else to have that experience, to come home to that retreat, to that oasis that, man, they don't feel like they have to fly to Florida 3 times a year or something just to, to have, because my home is my retreat and my
You
oasis.
know,
So,
what you just said, I feel like every person in the world needs to hear that. It sort of started. First person that I heard say something like what you're saying is our friend Emily Franchette, right?
yeah,
She
love
is
her.
so passionate, making the home a place that you want to be in. And as I was hearing you talk about how your home is arranged, and the balance that you and your husband have, the fact that you are both able to manage through the stress together, and that your home is a place that it wants to be, it's like I can tell you're legit. Like literally, you're like, why not make my home a place that I want to be? Why not
Yeah.
make my home a sanctuary so that all the chaos outside, when I come into my home, there's peace that I deliberately engineered, right? With like the chandelier that I want. I mean, you mentioned like going through like the different electrical fixtures and all that somehow. The fact that you also, your personality is like, if it's broke, I'm going to fix it, And what's so cool about helping people find that experience as well is that sometimes people, they are moving because they're trying to get out of rough neighborhood, or they're trying to do better for themselves, or maybe they bit off more than they could chew by buying a house, and then something happened, like somebody got laid off, or there was a death in the family or something like that. So like whatever reason people are moving for, it's their reason. And it's whether it's a good reason or the wrong reason or whatever, it's like you're there to help them through that, which I really appreciate. When we're talking about networking too, I feel like I wouldn't be doing this interview justice if I didn't talk about that, because you're so good at volunteering for causes, for helping people out. I know, like, I don't want to give away too much from Referral Madness, but like, as far as the referrals go, like referring businesses to each other in the business, it was, and I'm guessing it still is, because I've been out of the group now for a couple months, but I'm guessing there's still the jokes about, who's going to dethrone Cassidy in the first slot, because remember, on that chart, that ranks members of the referral group not by how much they are making, but by how much they are referring, and literally business transactions they are helping the people in the group get. And
Yeah.
you're always in the top 5. And if you weren't, it was just because you were behind on entering. You're just behind on entering your referrals, and it's like, oh wait, just wait until Cassidy enters her referrals in Referral Runway, because then there's going to be a freaking avalanche on all y'all. All that to say, how did you get that way? Like, how did you just decide, like, I'm just going to connect people? You're seriously probably the best connector that me and Steph know. And I mentioned my wife. You have also connected my wife with other providers that are in the maternal mental health space. And like, that's not even your forte, but somehow you have figured out a way to like match make. It's like this God-given ability. So, all right, I'm going to stop. I just want you to answer, or attempt to answer, all the things that I just threw at you. But like, on the subject of networking, maybe that'll be the chapter on YouTube.
Yeah.
How and why, and let's talk about that.
Yeah. Okay, first, I just have to ask, have you heard like Post Malone's new song with like a country? I can't remember who else is in it. It's like I Got a Guy.
Yeah, I do actually. I can't remember who he did with. Did he? Okay, so
Yeah.
yeah, Post Malone, huge fan. All right,
Yeah.
I got a guy.
Yeah. It's funny. I hear that song and it's like my theme song. That one line where it's like, oh, so down the street, I got, I don't even, not even try to sing, but
Right.
I love filling other people's cup, and I love, Michael, what do you do for a living? And really expanding on that. My dad was really a huge part of that, and it's funny because I'll be with my dad, or it's, for example, he needs something fixed on his house, but he's willing to like maybe let it be that way for a minute, and he's like, oh, I got a guy. And it's like he says that too, so maybe I just instilled that in my head growing up, that he's just always been like that. And so
Right.
I really feel that like having a huge network of people provides that luxury experience. So not only am I like filling the cup for other people's businesses and connecting others, but it allows my clients to have a full luxury experience, because they kind of are almost using me as like a concierge service at times, because I'm able to connect them with somebody and is able to make their experience so much easier. They're not stressed about, oh, I've got to like Google, a plumber, and is he even going to show up? It's like having
Right.
that is available. So-and-so came to your house and he, didn't do a good job. It falls back on that integrity side, which I, hold at my core. And I only want to hire people that also have similar values as me, as, what I stand for with my business and Scout Homes as well. And so having that, network of people that I know, trust, I've seen their work, I know it's legit, and they're going to answer the phone and be available and provide, that luxury experience, that luxury service to my clients. So it's almost like a concierge line that I provide to my clients, but I just really want to be a resource for them, so that they don't feel, because it is a huge purchase. Like buying a home is a lot of money, and I get that. And maybe the HVAC is not good. We're going to have Jim come in and give a quote for that, just to be sure that, again, go back to focus on your controllables. So it's just having those network of people that and trust. And as well, I like to see success in others as well. And it's not a competition to me. It's how can we be in this together?
It's funny because people, I think when they get into business for themselves, they agonize about how they're going to get ahead. And we've done a lot of talking about that in Referral Madness about ways to improve ourselves and be easier to work with and be more flexible and be open to helping others. And when you focus on the needs of others, it kind of gets your eyes off of your own things that are happening in your own life, right? It's actually a good it feels counterintuitive. Like you would think that to solve problems in your life, you would have to focus wholeheartedly on those problems. But like when you serve others and you help other people out, meet their needs, somehow all of a sudden like your needs start getting met. I feel like maybe there's something deep internally in us that like when we help other people, it just makes us generally feel better. But I've watched you just say, "Yep, I know a person." I don't know a person right now, but I got a guy that I can text and find out.
Yeah.
I asked you about a friend who was thinking about, getting the value done on their house, and you knew an appraiser, and it was like literally how seriously you've taken referrals as well. Cause that's something too, like when you start networking with people and you pass off, your friend to them, like something that I learned very early on is like, I've asked people that I've referred people to, I was like, when are you going to get back to them? Because I'm going to tell them this morning that you are the person. And if you're busy today, to be able to tell them that, because if you delay
Right.
your response, or if you're like too houndy and you call them back when they tell you to chill and you're calling back, now you're also making me look like, a
Yeah.
fool. And
Yeah.
so it is a dance when you're trying to refer people. So what do you have to say about that? Like tips for networking as well. I mean, would you say to people that, know they need to do more networking and maybe they just feel kind of introverted, or maybe they're hesitant to, or maybe they've been burned when they've networked before? Like,
It's like, okay, well, networking isn't for everyone. Like, I hear that comment all the time, but I feel like it's kind of almost, I don't want to say like a friendship, but it's like you just haven't found your people. You haven't found your people that share those core values. You haven't, because it should be natural. And on the flip side, if I'm sending, for example, an HVAC person, if I'm sending somebody over, I'm also telling that person that I'm referring, hey, do you want to do this? If you don't, it's okay. Just let me know. Like it's never like a forced thing. It's letting them make the decision too. And if you can't do it, it's okay. I want to know that. We'll just find somebody else that can, or we'll revisit it, or I don't know, like networking can feel uncomfy at times, but I truly believe that like everyone kind of just has their place, whether that's once a month networking, twice a year, once a week, twice a week, whatever that is. I feel that, you just might not have found like your core of people, and it shouldn't feel forced. Like I feel that real estate sometimes in our industry can be a very lonely job. And I think having a network of people surround you, having that community, that core people around you is crucial. And so I am excited to network because I know that it will strengthen my community of people, or, just people to rely on. Like, okay, Dr. Zach might work in a completely different field, or like your wife might work in a completely different field, but like we deal with like similar issues, and it's reassuring to know that other people have similar things going on, and it's not just me. So,
absolutely. Yeah. There's a
and
big
I
part
say
of,
that twice
okay.
because I mean it. It's not just me. Like it truly is not just, you know what I mean? Like having that reassurance too, that like we are all self-employed individuals. So
Absolutely. Yeah. I think like that becomes so crucial and critical when you are trying to forge your own business and do things on your own. And again, I say on your own, right? But you just said you put a line in the sand. You said it's not just me. It's not just me. It can be very lonely and insular. And I remember when I found my people, in the Referral Madness group, and y'all are still my people, right? It was like in the first, few introductions is like, okay, yep, the energy matches the energy and enthusiasm I have for what I do. I can see that in them. I can see that in you. And I could see everybody was there because they wanted to be. I think that's another thing too, is like when you have those people in your network, it's like they're showing up. And still, I love, gosh, I love the way you said you will check in with the referral to say, if you are you sure you have the bandwidth for this? Are you sure? If you're not, that's okay. I want you to know I don't expect you to like come through for my client right now. I care more about the relationship, and I love too what happens in those moments. Sometimes it's an education piece. Like I know our friend Mark Neighbor, right? Like when I
Mhm.
was first I got the first, felt like a solid referral for him, and it was somebody that I knew that was going through certain things with finances, and it was an education moment where he said, you know what, actually, Michael, like I'm fine with talking to them because I think I know some people I can refer them to. He goes, but I'm
Right.
not going to be their guy for this particular thing. And I was just like, whoa, like the fact that he had that opportunity to say, you know what, I'm not the guy. But then he said, you know what though, let me talk to him because I'm pretty curious about their situation and I might learn
Yeah.
something else. Like that's the other thing. Like if we didn't have that friendship, I we wouldn't have never been able to talk about that. And then it's an opportunity to learn about the
Yeah.
people in your network too, you know?
Yeah. It
So
speaks volumes for sure. And again, it's not just the relationship with the client, it's also the relationship with the person it's like a full circle of relationship. And yeah, I take that part very seriously.
absolutely. What does the future look like? Near future. We talked about you helping people get their 5-year plan, 10-year plan, all that stuff. What's next for Scout Homes? Like, what do you have on the horizon that you're comfortable sharing, of course, top secret or top security clearance or anything like that? But like, what do you think is coming up in the next few months and maybe in 2025?
I think getting through this election
Right?
will
Right?
be essential. A lot of people are scared right now. They're scared of change. Like they don't know what's happening with the election. And I think that there is some opportunity in real estate right now because of that. And I think certain buyers could take advantage of times like this where, maybe there are less buyers out in the market, that kind of thing. So I think,
Right.
as we close out 2024, I think that there is a lot of opportunity. I'm excited for the future of real estate. I'm excited to be at a healthy, 4 or 5% interest rate. I think that there's going to be a lot of opportunity in the market. I don't think we'll ever get to the 2.75s again or the twos, but
Right. Right.
um, I think Kansas City is blowing up. I mean, Taylor Swift does visit here. I don't know if you're aware of that, but like we are on the map now.
Wow. Um,
So I tell people if you're trying to buy a house, like we are now on the map. So like what are you waiting for?
that's a good segue to mention Kansas City, like getting on the map. What does that mean? And what do you think is going to happen here with home prices, properties? Like, actually interviewed people on the show that have actually relocated here from other states during the pandemic, like bought homes sight unseen and all that. So that's about all I know, though. I'm not very smart on the market, but like you said, like Kansas City, like if you want to buy, like come here now. What's going to happen with Kansas City?
So we see a lot of what's going on, and I know you're not from here and probably know
Yep.
this too, but like what's on the East and West Coast start to work its way in of what things, do. Also pivot here as well. But really, some may not think that homes are affordable here, but it is truly, really affordable. You brought up a great point of other people moving here during the pandemic because they see how affordable a home is here and they see opportunity here. I work with people from all over the US and they also see that as well. And now with the public eye of like, oh, Taylor Swift visits Kansas City, oh, the Chiefs, like there's just so much, the soccer stadium, like the new airport, like there's so much like driving in Kansas City. So when I have somebody that's never purchased a home and maybe they're like waiting, trying to time the market or like time, anything, it all falls back into focus on your controllable. So let's gather a game plan. Can we make it happen? Because Kansas City is not going to get any cheaper. I looked at a buyer in the eyes today who told me that the market was going to crash. And I said, no, it's not. And I said it like, I know what I'm talking about. And I was like, I mean, it's going to take a lot for the market to crash. It might crash on the outside, but I don't know if that will truly ever make it to Kansas City because it is so affordable. You know, people that live, breathe Kansas City, have never moved anywhere else, might not think it's affordable. But when you look at it from big picture, it's really the quality of life, you know, the education that you can receive here, the opportunity, you know, health and like the availability of, you know, doctors, like all of the things, you know, make
Absolutely.
this a great place to live. And I feel like you can attest to that too. And it's not going to get
Absolutely.
any cheaper.
Right. No, I agree with you on that 100%. And I don't know that I've ever shared my full experience here, but yeah, Stephanie and I, we're gonna reach 10 years in January. And
Wow.
we sold our house in California back in 2014, and it was on the market for 6 days, and we moved here. And again, we came for the quality of life, you know. And I still agree with you too. Like I agree with you that it is more affordable than some other regions that are on the coast, or like in Austin, Texas, which is now
Yeah.
exploded. And like there's parts in the South and the Midwest that have also like they've blown up, but like Kansas City has remained a place where that they can sell their homes on the coast, and they can find, you know, a home here that has a decent spread of property. And then again, like when you start talking about, yeah, the schools, the medical centers, like I mean, I think now that we have kids, like we're so glad like Children's Mercy is right here, you know, and that those people have been absolutely wonderful to us in our just the networks that we found out here. Like that's the one thing I will tell anybody that is like an adult and looking to relocate, like the people that you grew up with, like you can't just create those relationships from scratch. Like it's actually a little bit more difficult to make friends as an adult, right? Because like you don't have that history established with like your high school friends, right? But the fact that big businesses are taking notice, like we're having the big battery factory come in, the big data centers, you know, we've had the nickname of Silicon Prairie for a while, right? Because a lot of the tech companies are coming here. But but yeah, it's a great place to live. Any
Yeah. Kansas City is truly a great place to live. I mean, I know I sit here and I just said it, but I'll say it again. You know, anybody who has an idea of I want to start this or I want to do this, I feel that it's very like Kansas City is very accepting culture of, you know, entrepreneurs and, you know, support and guidance. So you know, I never want to move.
Absolutely. Well, I have so enjoyed having you on the show. Best networker I know, honestly, and I hope everybody's learned just a little bit more about buying and selling homes.
Yes, thank you so much, Michael. It's been an honor.
Got it.